The deception, the Zephyrian Empire was dying. Not from war or plague, but from something far worse: irrelevance. For 3 centuries, they had ruled 17 star systems through fear and technological superiority. Now, surrounded by newer, stronger civilizations, their once mighty empire had shrunk to just 3 systems. Captain Vex stood on the bridge of his warship, the silent predator, studying tactical displays that showed the latest territorial losses. His forearms moved independently, each manipulating different data streams while his compound eyes processed information at speeds that would overwhelm most species. The human expansion into the Orion Arm had changed everything. In just 50 years, humanity had established colonies across 40 systems, their influence spreading like wildfire through diplomatic channels and trade agreements rather than conquest. Where the Zephyrians ruled through intimidation, humans built alliances. Where the Empire demanded tribute, Earth offered partnership. It was maddening to watch these newcomers succeed where the Empire failed. Engineer Cora entered the bridge, her crystalline form catching the ambient light and refracting it into rainbow patterns across the walls. She had served under Vex for 20 years, and he trusted her judgment more than any other officer in what remained of the Imperial fleet. She carried a datapad that pulsed with urgent information, her expression unreadable behind her translucent features. "Captain, our scouts have made an interesting discovery in the Perseus Belt," she announced, transferring the data to the main screen. "An abandoned human mining station on asteroid designation Series 7. It appears to have been evacuated approximately 6 months ago due to depleted resources, but all equipment remains intact and operational." Vex leaned forward, his interest piqued. Abandoned human technology was rare. They typically dismantled or destroyed anything they left behind, a security protocol that frustrated many species, hoping to study their advanced systems. This station represented an opportunity, though for what, he wasn't certain yet. "How long until we reach it?" he asked, already calculating potential uses for an intact human facility. 14 hours at maximum speed, Captain." "But there's more. The station's communication array is still active, drawing power from solar collectors. It has full access to human emergency frequencies and their quantum entanglement network for priority transmissions." The implications hit Vex immediately. The human emergency response system was legendary throughout the galaxy. Stories circulated about rescue fleets crossing impossible distances to save stranded colonists, about medical ships arriving within hours of disasters that should have taken days to reach. It was their greatest strength, but also perhaps a weakness that could be exploited. "Set course immediately," Vex commanded, "and assemble a technical team. I want to know everything about how that station operates." The journey to Series 7 passed quickly, filled with strategic planning and careful preparation. Vex gathered his senior officers in the war room, explaining his emerging plan. The Zephyrian Empire needed resources, technology, and most importantly, leverage against the expanding human presence. A carefully crafted deception could provide all 3. The humans pride themselves on never leaving their people behind, Vex explained to his assembled commanders. They respond to distress calls with remarkable speed, but often limited tactical assessment. If we can create a convincing emergency scenario, we can lure a rescue fleet into an ambush. Commander Thresh, leader of the Empire's 2nd warship, expressed concern. "The humans are not fools, Captain. Their military intelligence is sophisticated. How do we create a deception they won't immediately detect?" "By using their own technology and protocols against them," Cora interjected, displaying her preliminary analysis. "The mining station contains detailed records of human emergency procedures, voice samples from former crew members, and authentic identification codes. We can synthesize a distress call that will pass their initial authentication checks." The door plan took shape over the following days as the Zephyrian ships surrounded the abandoned station. Cora and her team worked tirelessly, accessing databases and communication logs. They discovered personal messages between crew members, technical reports filled with human-specific terminology, and most valuable of all, training simulations for emergency situations. The human practice sessions were thorough, covering everything, from reactor failures to asteroid impacts. Each scenario included specific phrases, technical readings, and emotional responses that would trigger immediate rescue protocols. Cora studied these patterns, learning the rhythm and cadence of human panic, the way fear affected their speech patterns, and the technical details that would make a distress call authentic. "I've identified the perfect scenario," she reported, to Vex after 3 days of preparation. A colony transport ship, the Aurora's Dream, carrying 800 civilians including families with children, will claim catastrophic drive failure following an asteroid field transit, with cascading system failures threatening life support. "Children?" Vex questioned, unfamiliar with human psychology regarding their offspring. "Essential for maximum response," Cora explained. "Humans exhibit extreme protective behavior toward their young. Historical data shows rescue missions involving children receive triple the standard resource allocation and response speed. They will not hesitate or delay verification if they believe children are dying." The technical team worked meticulously to craft the false distress signal. Using voice synthesis technology and samples from the station's logs, they created the persona of Captain Marcus Webb, a 30-year veteran of the Colonial Transport Service. His voice carried the perfect mixture of professional composure and underlying panic, reporting technical failures with precision while his emotional control gradually deteriorated. "Mayday, Mayday, this is Captain Marcus Webb of the civilian transport Aurora's Dream," the synthesized voice began. "We have suffered critical drive failure following emergency asteroid avoidance maneuvers. Main reactor is in emergency shutdown. Backup power failing. Life support operating at 30% capacity and falling. 800 souls aboard, including 200 children. Oxygen reserves critical. Request immediate evacuation assistance." Background audio enhanced the deception. Alarms blaring, crew members shouting status reports, and the distinctive hiss of escaping atmosphere. Cora had even included the sound of crying children in the distance, a detail that would trigger powerful emotional responses in human operators. Every element was calculated to create urgency and prevent careful analysis. "Now we add technical authenticity," Cora explained, inserting strings of human technical jargon. "Plasma manifold breach in sections 7 through 12. Structural integrity compromised. Emergency bulkhead sealed but showing stress fractures. Navigation offline. Position drift approximately 700 kilometers per hour toward the asteroid field. Collision probable within 18 hours without assistance." Vex listened to the completed message with satisfaction. It was perfect, detailed enough to seem authentic, desperate enough to demand immediate response, and technically complex enough to prevent quick verification. The coordinates they provided placed the fictional ship in a dense asteroid cluster, where sensor readings would be naturally distorted, explaining any inconsistencies the humans might detect. "Position our fleet," Vex commanded. 12 warships, hidden among the asteroids. When their rescue ships arrive, we disable their engines and weapons before they realize the deception. The Empire will have human prisoners, technology, and medical supplies. More importantly, we'll demonstrate that human compassion is a weakness that can be exploited. The Zephyrian fleet moved into position with practiced precision. Each ship powered down non-essential systems and activated stealth protocols, becoming virtually invisible among the metallic asteroids. Weapons were charged but kept offline to avoid energy signatures. Boarding teams prepared capture equipment, studying human anatomy and pressure suit vulnerabilities. "Remember," Vex addressed his crews through encrypted channels, "we need them, intact. Disabled but not destroyed. The Empire requires their technology and information. Set weapons to minimal necessary force. Target engines and weapon systems only." Cora initiated the transmission sequence from the abandoned station, routing it through multiple relay points to obscure its origin. The false distress call began broadcasting on 17 different human emergency frequencies, each transmission slightly degraded to simulate distance and interference. Automated systems added timestamp data suggesting the emergency had begun 4 hours ago, creating urgency without allowing time for thorough investigation. "Signal transmitted successfully," Cora reported. "Based on human response patterns, we should expect initial contact within 6 hours, rescue fleet arrival within 24 hours. Vex settled into his command chair, watching tactical displays showing his hidden fleet's positions. 12 warships against whatever small rescue force the humans dispatched. The humans' emotional nature would be their downfall. They would rush to save their people without proper military escort, without tactical analysis, without suspecting deception. "The Empire will remember this day," he declared to his bridge crew, "as the moment we proved that human compassion is not strength, but weakness. When they arrive to save their imaginary dying children, they will instead find the resurgence of Zephyrian power." The Response Earth Defense Command's Emergency Response Center never slept. Located beneath Olympus Mons on Mars, the facility monitored thousands of communication channels simultaneously, processing distress calls from across human-controlled space and beyond. At 0300 hours Mars Standard Time, and priority alert pierced the controlled chaos of the command center. Commander Sarah Chen was already moving before the alert finished its first cycle. 20 years of military service had taught her to recognize the subtle differences in emergency signals. This one carried the distinctive harmonic pattern of a massive civilian casualty event. Her coffee mug hit the desk hard enough to splash its contents as she pulled up the transmission on her personal display. The distress call from the Aurora's Dream played through the speakers, Captain Webb's desperate voice filling the command center. Every officer stopped their current tasks to listen. The technical details were precise, the panic authentic, and the mention of 200 children created an immediate tension throughout the room. Chen's own expression hardened as she absorbed every detail. "Verification status?" she barked to her intelligence officer, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Rodriguez. "Running authentication protocols now, Commander. Colonial Registry shows Aurora's Dream departed from Titan Station 9 days ago. Passenger manifest confirms 800 civilians, including families relocating to the Kepler colonies. Captain Marcus Webb is listed as commanding officer. 31 years of service, exemplary record." Chen nodded, but something felt wrong. Her instincts, honed through decades of emergency response, detected a discordant note in the seemingly perfect distress call. She couldn't identify it precisely, but experience had taught her to trust these feelings. The lives of 800 people demanded immediate action, but rushing blind into unknown danger would help no one. "Deploy standard rescue protocol," she ordered, "but implement Directive 7. Several officers looked up in surprise. Directive 7 was the classified protocol for potential deception scenarios, rarely invoked and never publicly acknowledged. It meant the rescue mission would proceed exactly as expected, but with hidden military assets embedded within the response. Earth had learned long ago that their humanitarian reputation made them targets for exploitation. "Prepare the hospital, ship Mercy's Light for immediate departure," Chen continued. "Support vessels Compassion and Hope will provide additional evacuation capacity. Standard escort of 2 destroyers for navigation and debris clearing in the asteroid field." What she didn't announce, what only her senior staff knew, was that 3 additional warships would shadow the rescue fleet under full stealth protocols. The Dreadnought, Decisive Action, and Battle Cruisers, Rapid Response and Final Word, would maintain position 30 minutes behind the visible fleet, ready to intervene if needed. Their weapons were specifically configured for ambush scenarios. Lieutenant Colonel Rodriguez worked furiously at his station, running deep analysis on the distress signal. Military-grade artificial intelligence systems dissected every aspect of the transmission, comparing voice patterns, technical terminology, and background audio against millions of previous emergency calls. The AI's quantum processors could identify patterns invisible to human perception. "Commander, the Prometheus AI is flagging anomalies," Rodriguez reported quietly, ensuring his voice didn't carry to the General Command Center. "Voice stress patterns are inconsistent with authentic panic." Response: "Background audio shows repetitive patterns suggesting artificial generation. Confidence of deception: 78%. Chen felt her suspicions crystallize into certainty. Someone was using a fake distress call to lure human ships into a trap. The question was who, and more importantly, how should Earth respond? The obvious answer would be to ignore the transmission, but that wasn't the human way. Every distress call received a response, even suspicious ones. It was a principle that defined humanity's relationship with the galaxy. Maintain standard rescue protocol, she decided, but activate Operation Thunderstrike. Operation Thunderstrike was Earth's classified response to emergency signal exploitation. On the surface, the rescue fleet would appear vulnerable and focused, solely on humanitarian aid. In reality, it would be the bait for a carefully orchestrated counter-ambush. The 3 Shadow warships were just the beginning. Chen authorized deployment of the 7th Fleet's Rapid Response Squadron, 40 ships that would position themselves at strategic jump points, ready to arrive within minutes if combat erupted. Captain Jennifer Walsh commanded the Mercy's Light, the lead vessel of the rescue fleet. Chen briefed her privately through quantum-encrypted channels, ensuring no possible interception. Walsh was a veteran of 16 major rescue operations and had survived 3 attempted ambushes by various hostile forces. She understood the delicate balance between maintaining the deception and protecting her people. Your medical teams and evacuation procedures will be completely authentic, Chen explained. If there are actual civilians in danger, we save them, but your escort destroyers will be carrying something special. We've loaded them with Mark 7 defensive pods, disguised as additional medical supplies. The Mark 7 pods were Earth's latest military innovation, containing compressed defensive systems that could deploy in seconds. Each pod held 12 antimatter missiles, point defense lasers, and shield generators. A single destroyer carrying 20 pods could suddenly transform into a battleship-equivalent defensive platform. It was exactly the kind of surprise that would turn an ambush into a catastrophe for the attackers. The rescue fleet departed Mars orbital station 4 hours after receiving the distress call, their departure broadcast on public channels as was standard procedure. Earth never hid its humanitarian missions, considering transparency essential for maintaining trust with colonial populations. Media outlets covered the launch, interviewing family members of the rescue crews and medical personnel preparing for massive casualty events. What the media didn't report, what they couldn't see, were the 3 warships that departed 12 minutes later under full stealth protocols. The decisive action alone carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Her captain, James Thunder Harrison, was Earth's most decorated combat commander, known for his tactical brilliance and utter ruthlessness when protecting human lives. Remember the rules of engagement, Harrison addressed his combined fleet through encrypted channels. We do not fire first unless human lives are in immediate danger, but if someone has used a fake distress call to lure our people into danger, we respond with overwhelming force. No mercy for those who exploit human compassion. The journey to the asteroid field took 18 hours at maximum safe speed. During transit, intelligence teams worked continuously to analyze the situation. They identified 12 energy signatures hidden among the asteroids, consistent with warships in stealth mode. The configuration suggested Zephyrian technology, matching intelligence reports of their expanding desperation for resources and relevance. Zephyrians, Chen muttered from her command center on Mars, watching real-time tactical data transmitted by quantum entanglement. They've finally crossed the line from irrelevance to stupidity. She authorized escalation to Defense Condition 2, mobilizing Earth's entire rapid response fleet. If the Zephyrians wanted to test human resolve, they would receive a lesson that would echo through galactic history. 40 additional warships began moving toward the engagement zone, including the supercarrier Humanity's Hammer, with its complement of 300 fighters. The rescue fleet approached the asteroid field, with apparent caution appropriate for navigating dangerous debris. Captain Walsh maintained perfect operational discipline, broadcasting standard medical preparation announcements and requesting detailed casualty reports from the Aurora's Dream. The lack of response was explained by the supposed communication system failures maintaining the facade for any observers. Behind them, invisible to every sensor system the Zephyrians possessed, the Shadow Fleet took position. The decisive action's weapons locked onto 6 enemy vessels simultaneously, her targeting computers calculating firing solutions that would disable each ship with minimal casualties. The battlecruisers flanked wide, preparing to cut off any escape routes. Captain Vex watched the approaching human vessels with satisfaction from his hidden position among the asteroids. 3 ships exactly as predicted, one hospital ship, and 2 small destroyers. His tactical display showed their approach vector, their speed suggesting urgent response but not military preparation. The trap was working perfectly. All ships prepare for simultaneous strike, he commanded through the fleet network. Remember, disable only. We need them intact for intelligence. Extraction. He never got to give the order to attack. At exactly 1400 hours Mars Standard Time, as the rescue fleet entered optimal ambush range, Earth sprung its counter-trap. The 2 destroyers launched their disguised Mark 7 pods simultaneously, flooding space with defensive systems that deployed in seconds. What had appeared to be helpless medical escorts suddenly bristled with weapons that shouldn't have existed on ships their size. The decisive action dropped its stealth systems, appearing behind the Zephyrian fleet like divine judgment. Her presence alone caused 3 Zephyrian ships to attempt immediate withdrawal, only to find the battle cruisers had already cut off their escape routes. In the span of 30 seconds, the ambushers had become the ambushed. Attention, Zephyrian vessels. Captain Harrison's voice boomed across all communication channels. You have attempted to exploit human mercy for violent purposes. You have used the pretense of dying children to lure rescue ships into an ambush. This action is considered a war crime under Earth Defense Charter Section 9. Vex felt his compound, eyes dilate in shock as tactical displays showed not 3 but 6 human warships, with energy signatures suggesting more arriving. The hospital ship itself began deploying weapon systems that should have been impossible on a medical vessel. The humans hadn't just anticipated the trap, they had turned it into a demonstration of overwhelming superiority. You have 10 seconds to power down all weapons and surrender unconditionally, Harrison continued. Any hostile action will be met with immediate and decisive response. Earth protects those who call for help, but we annihilate those who exploit our compassion. Choose wisely. The next 10 seconds stretched like eternity for the Zephyrian fleet. Vex understood with crystal clarity that his 12 warships faced not just the 6 visible human vessels, but likely dozens more ready to jump in. The Empire's attempt to prove human compassion was weakness had instead demonstrated it was bait for the galaxy's most lethal trap. All ships, power down weapons, Vex commanded, his voice heavy with defeat. Comply with human directives. One Zephyrian destroyer, commanded by an officer more proud than wise, attempted to flee rather than surrender. The decisive action's response was swift and terrible. A single antimatter torpedo deleted the ship from existence, leaving only expanding plasma and a clear message to the remaining vessels. 11 ships have wisely chosen survival, Harrison announced. You will be boarded, your crews detained for trial, and your vessels impounded. The Zephyrian Empire will pay reparations for this attempted crime or face complete isolation from human trade networks. As boarding teams secured the Zephyrian vessels, Earth's full response fleet began arriving. 40 warships materialized from jump points, surrounding the asteroid field in an overwhelming display of force. The message to the galaxy was clear. Earth would always answer distress calls, but those who attempted to exploit human compassion would face the full might of a species that had turned empathy into the ultimate weapon. Commander Chen watched, from Mars, as the situation resolved without significant casualties. The Zephyrian Empire would survive but would never again threaten human space. Their fleet would be returned after serving sentences for attempted piracy, but the psychological defeat would last generations. They had learned what others had discovered. Before them, humans were most dangerous when protecting those who called for help. The incident became known throughout the galaxy as the Aurora Deception, a cautionary tale about underestimating human intelligence and resolve. Species across known space understood that Earth's compassion was genuine but not naive. The humans would always come when called, but they would come prepared for any possibility. Captain Vex spent his detention writing reports for his empire, explaining how their plan had failed so completely. The humans hadn't just anticipated deception, they had built their entire emergency response system around the assumption that some calls would be traps. Their compassion was real, but it was armored with skepticism and backed by overwhelming Firepower Earth's response to the Aurora deception established a new galactic standard. The Interstellar Council formally recognized emergency signal fraud as a war crime, with mandatory penalties including economic sanctions and military intervention. No species would again attempt to exploit distress calls without remembering the Zephyrian fleet's humiliation. The human philosophy spread throughout civilized space. We answer every call for help, but we come armed for those who lie about needing it. It became the foundation for a new era of galactic cooperation, where genuine emergencies received immediate aid while deception met swift justice. Years later, when real emergencies occurred in Zephyrian space, Earth's rescue fleets arrived without hesitation. The humans held no grudges, demonstrating that their compassion extended even to former enemies. This act of forgiveness completed the Zephyrian Empire's transformation from adversary to ally, proving that human mercy was indeed strength, just not the kind of weakness they had expected. The galaxy had learned its lesson. When humans received a distress call, they would always respond. The question was whether you wanted them arriving as saviors or as executioners. For those genuinely in need, no force in the universe was more welcome than Earth's rescue fleets. For those who lied, no force was more terrifying than Earth's response to deception.